Welcome, everyone, to this third week in our series. Today, the topic is elevating science and history and social science using Learning Genie's all new AI lesson planner with embedded PD coaching. Did you guys hear that? New AI lesson planner with embedded PD coaching. We'll get into that in a minute. I am your presenter, Dr. Erica Dallas. And if you've been with me for the last 3 weeks, you know I have a lot of energy. I'm very silly and I love early childhood education. I've been doing it for 16 years. Who's counting? And I have veered into every realm of early childhood education. I have lots of certifications, PITC, class, ECE, culturally responsive, diversity, equity, and inclusion, you name it. This is my purpose. It is my passion. It is what brings me joy. All right. And again, if you've been with us the last 3 weeks, you know that I like to start off with an opening thought and with a closing thought. So here's our opening thought. In early childhood, every question, why is the sky blue or who drives the fire truck, is a doorway into discovery. Science and history and social science are not just subjects. They are how students begin to make sense of the world and their place in it. When we nurture curiosity about the natural world and help students see their role in a community, we're not just teaching facts, we're shaping thinkers, problem solvers, and compassionate citizens from the very beginning. Welcome to the future of education, everyone. So let's talk objectives. Let's talk objectives. So we have a lot of objectives. The first one will be to understand how to use Learning Genie's all new AI powered lesson planner to align with PTKLF, DRDP, and student goals. To explore features of the AI powered lesson planner to help educators delivering engaging standard aligned science and history and social science content. And since this is our topic, you're going to hear a lot of me saying science and history and social science, as you did last week and the week before that, we had other topics. Explore examples of the PTKLF and DRDP aligned observations embedded into science and history and social science lessons. Trainers, coaches, and educators will learn teaching tips to support teaching teams and implementation of culturally responsive, inquiry-based content. And last but not least, discover practical teaching tips to implement with confidence. Confidence. I know that we approach technology sometimes as I'm doing training or as I'm doing coaching or I go to different facilities. It depends on how long a person's been in education. It really gives me a level of how they just avoid technology sometimes. And that's just my experience. I haven't done any data on it, but I do speak with some educators who've been in this realm for a long time. And they're like, technology isn't for me. Well, I love technology and it is the future of education. So please join me on this journey. All right, so let's talk about our science domain. So the science domain emphasizes nurturing students' innate curiosity and understanding of their environment through structured learning experiences. The PTKLF emphasizes that science learning in early childhood, it emerges through play, guided exploration, and meaningful conversations. It builds foundational skills for critical thinking, problem solving, and reasoning, supports language development and cross-curricular connections, especially with math and literacy. And so if you think about, excuse me, some of the data that we see out there, we're still seeing a lot of data on math and in the reading areas and literacy where children are scoring really low. So as we dive into the new AI lesson planner, I want you to really take a closer look at those areas of math and literacy if they're embedded into the lesson plan that we create together. I want you to see all the content and how it guides you through. If you're like me, and you may not be, math wasn't my subject growing up. It just wasn't. But I was good at science. I was good at everything else, but math just was a challenge for me. And so my mom would tutor me because she was an educator, and I still didn't grasp it because it's my mom tutoring me. So Let's think about those areas and think about the research that's out there, and then look at the AI unit planner and see how it can assist us. Encourages teachers to provide open-ended materials and scaffold learning through intentional questions. So that's really cool. Within the science domain, there are 5 key strands. So if you've had a chance to look at the PTKLF, you know that you have your domains, you have your strands, and you have your substrands. So we're gonna go look, we're gonna talk about the substrands. We're not really gonna get into every component of it, but I want to give you examples because I like differentiated instruction. So instead of just talking about that definition, we're going to talk about what that actually looks like. So whenever you're teaching, you're coaching in your classrooms, or if you're training in your classrooms, you're training your educators, it's essential to understand how they learn. It's essential to understand how they can master and generalize anything that you teach them. And so there comes a time where everyone masters things, like we read it, we memorize it, etc. But how do you apply that in the real world of education, in your classrooms, in your daily lives? So we're going to look at the definition, but now I'm going to help you see the bigger picture of what it looks like according to the PTKLF. All right. So, one of the 5 strands is science and engineering practices. It focuses on developing children's ability to observe, investigate, communicate, and solve problems related to scientific phenomena and engineering challenges. Wow. Wow, kids can do this? Yes, they can. So, here's an example. Students use a magnifying glass to observe leaves and they draw what they see. The teacher could facilitate a discussion in a small or a large group, or it could be child led, where they compare and contrast and explain the differences in texture and color. You know, kids love that. You take it over to the science area and they like to get their little magnifying glasses, and sometimes they'll even tear it apart, like, what's inside? Or, oh, they'll ask you questions. They're like, what are these grooves and these lines on the leaves? And so that's a great way to spark science and engineering practices. The next strand is physical science. Centers on exploring the properties and behaviors of objects and materials, including concepts like sound, light, shadow, motion, and energy. So I have an example here, but this just reminded me back in 2019, I was working in the classroom and all of the power went out in our classrooms. But we had these really big windows. They were huge. And I'm like, lift up the shades, let the light in, you know. And so we just let the light in, and the children were like, it was like a moment of like beauty. They all went over to the window, and then it started raining, and it calmed them so much, and we started talking about the rain, etc. So that's one example. Here's another one. During free play, students roll balls down ramps of different heights and predict which will go faster. They test their predictions and compare outcomes. You know, kids love those ramps. I love the ramps too. So they love the ramps. They love rolling the balls down the ramp. So that's another way for to spark physical science. Life science. It involves understanding characteristics of living things, their growth changes over time, and their habitats. Think about that. What could that be? A habitat, right? You have a classroom activity where the class has the opportunity to plant bean seeds. I don't know why I love that activity so much. Where you put the bead in the paper towel and the kids watch it grow, and they note the daily challenges or anything that's happening with the seeds. As a teacher, you can facilitate a conversation with your students around what plants need to live and grow. I really do love that. The next strand is earth and space science. I'm a science person. Can you tell by now? I love earth and space science. Encourages exploration of earth materials, weather patterns, celestial objects, and human impact on on the environment. So students collect different types of rocks from the playground and sort them by color and texture. I'm going to tell you guys a story in a second. The teacher could facilitate a conversation about how rocks are formed, or how rain and wind changes the ground outside. Let me tell you a story. Story time. We went out on the playground with our preschoolers. We're having fun, and they love to collect rocks, and they love to collect all types of other things. So, after we were done playing on the playground, the students lined up, and one of our kids pants kept falling down, and not all the way, but they were like falling. And so I'm like, let me help him. I'm like, what? What? I'm like, you have rocks in your pockets? He's like, yeah. So I said, well, let me get you a little basket and you can put your rocks in here. He's like, okay, Miss Erica. And so I give him the basket. He takes the rocks out and he puts them in his pot in the little basket. And I'm like, you still have rocks in there. So I said, can I get the rock out of your pocket? He said, yes. So I stick my hand in his pocket, you guys. I bet you already know what was in his pocket. Roly polies. Not my thing. I'm forever scarred by roly polies. So be careful when you're doing earth and space science with students. The next strand is engineering, technology, and applications of science. So introduce the engineering design process to your students. You can encourage them to identify problems, create solutions, and utilize tools, including digital devices, to address everyday challenges. There was a classroom, I forgot what it's called, but it was like the name of it had like technology in it. And so in the classroom, there were different types of technologies, and they were actually preparing preschoolers for the new upcoming world with AI and technology. It was super, super cool. And these preschoolers were building things. They were building robots. One had built a dog and he built the remote control. Preschoolers, and they were saying words, and I promise you, I had to grab my phone and put in my notes some of the words they were saying, and I had to go back and do a little research because I didn't understand. So think about that as technology truly takes a shift and emerges. You have to become adapt to that conversation and those topics. So here's an example. Students build bridges using blocks to help toy animals cross a gap. They test which designs are strongest and revise their creations using tools. So that's a great way to spark that engineering and technology applications. It doesn't always have to be like plugging in or electricity. There are other ways. All right. Our next domain is social science. The PTKLF emphasizes that history, social science, learning in early education addresses how children learn about and make sense of social world, including their families, schools, communities, and the institutions and places they encounter in their daily lives. The domain of history and social science supports young children's development in understanding their social world. It considers how students grapple with questions of who they are in the world and how they relate to other people in space and across time. And when I hear this, I also hear a little bit of approaches to learning, like how do you know yourself? How are you learning yourself, etc. So the next thing we're going to do is look at the strands within this domain, and there's six. I'm not going to go over all of them. Again, I'm just going to give you some examples. So there are six strands. Social inquiry skills. And so this is where students ask questions and gather information. So an example would be children interview a classroom guest, like a school custodian or the principal, and they ask questions about their role. Later, they share what they learned by drawing or telling a story to the class. That's really, really cool, really cool. Self and social systems. So children learn about themselves, their families, and cultural communities, recognizing social roles, norms, and the rich diversity that shapes identity and belonging. And so in this, can you guys hear that culturally responsiveness in there? Self and social systems. And so that's embedded in that history and social science. Much needed. So here's an example. Students bring in family photos or artifacts and talk about a tradition they celebrate. There's that culturally responsive, relevant, and sustaining pedagogy. They notice similarities and differences between their experiences and those of their classmates. We need that. We need that diversity in the classrooms. We need children to have conversations with each other and to really authentically enjoy and talk about and communicate and see other people's experiences and differences. A lot of times, children will be so verbal and they'll say, "What is that?" Or "I don't like that," or "Why is she doing that?" And so this is a great way to really facilitate those conversations in a meaningful way. Next one is skills for democracy and being a community member. It's civics. So children build empathy, learn fairness, practice decision making, and take responsibility for their actions as active, respectful members of their classroom community. Whoa. All right, let's think about behaviors, you guys. Let's think about behaviors in your classrooms and how this will help you. So here's an idea. The class could vote on which books to read for story time, then discuss the importance of respecting the group's choice. RESPECT. Okay. They also practice resolving conflicts using a peace corner and kind words. A peace corner and kind words. So if you already have a quiet area in your classroom, this will be perfect. Do a wall with a tree of kind words, and in your peace corner, you're gonna call it the peace corner now, and kids are gonna go, that's the quiet area, and we're gonna say, we named it the peace corner for this week. And they're going to go, why? And you're going to go, come on over to this tree. And you're going to put those kind words on the tree and have those conversations. Have those opening conversations. The next one is time, continuity, and change. Children explore concepts of past, present, and future by making personal timelines. Ooh, reflecting on memories and recognizing how people and places change over time. Are you guys loving the PTKLF? I'm loving the PTKLF. So children create a simple timeline of their lives with pictures from their childhood until to date. So they talk about how they've grown and what they've learned over time. I can truly tell you that I remember when I was in first grade and they had us bring in our baby pictures. Um, my classmates were like, that's not you. I'm like, it's me. I had to go home and say, Mom, is this me? She's like, it's you. So that's a really, really great way to have conversations and to really think about some of the things you've experienced in your life as a child and those great memories. Sense of place and environment. Children connect to their physical surroundings by learning about neighborhoods. So that could look like the class takes a nature walk. If you're allowed to take nature walks, be safe. You can walk around the school, you can make maps, you can draw maps, and you can talk about what you see. And the final one is the economic system. So children begin to understand needs and wants, the basics of exchanging goods and services and ideas that people have different jobs and roles in the economy. So during dramatic play, children can take turns being storekeepers or shoppers, using pretend money to buy food. We all love those Lakeshore cash registers. So playing around with food, having them buy food and purchase food. And they discuss why people work in these fields and what other jobs are in the community. So thinking about these both domains, science and history/social science, and for now I'm going to call it science and social science, we're going to build a lesson plan using a new feature, the AI lesson planner, and Learning Genie's lesson plan area. But first, let's talk about it. So we're going to talk about it before we head over there. So what's this new feature? Well, last week Daniel mentioned the all new feature. You may have seen the video. You may have explored it and had the opportunity to play around with it. It is the AI. It is powered by AI. And in a few minutes, we'll just head over to Learning Genie so you can make sense of what I'm saying. And we're going to take a look at some of the features that are embedded within. It's super cool. There's built-in coaching while you plan. The PD Companion acts as a virtual instructional coach during unit and lesson planning. It provides real-time context, specific teaching tips for science and history, because that's our topic this week, but there's other things in there. And it's aligned to the PTKLF. So while teachers plan, the AI suggests teaching tips that are specific to what they're working on. There's the companion that supports best practices, so the UDL, making lessons accessible to all learning styles with added support for IEP and ELD. So the AI ensures lessons are inclusive and adaptable for students with diverse needs, regardless of their needs. And there is the CLR portion, the culturally linguistic and responsive teaching, which makes lessons relevant to students' cultures and languages. And for you coaches and trainers out there, coaches can use it to model how to build strong, inclusive lessons while also guiding teachers in designing experiences that supports mastery. Remember, we talked about mastering and generalization. So it helps with designing experiences that supports mastery of key concepts and promotes generalization across settings. We need that. And content areas and real life situations in the classrooms. Teachers get support in the moment without having to wait for professional development opportunities or training sessions, because we know we're all busy. So the addition to the lesson plan library is like having an innovative, standards aligned teaching partner in your back pocket, helping you plan powerful science and history and social science lessons that reach all learners. All right. Are you excited? Are you excited? Okay, so we're gonna head over to, for the sake of time, we're gonna head over to Learning Genie and take a look at some of the features. I'm going to create a lesson plan from beginning to end. We're gonna talk about some of the different areas in that lesson plan. I already have a little name because I wanted it to coincide with our science and social science topic. So let me get that really quick so I can pop it in for you so we can take a look at this new feature. So starting from your home page, we're going to go down to reflective planning. And you guys already have this option. Some of you should have this option. We're going to go to lesson library. So as you go to the lesson library, you'll see that new AI powered lesson planning right here. So when I saw it, like I sometimes when I log on to Learning Genie, I'm like, something new. And so that's what I did. And I immediately said, excuse me, Daniel, what is this? So if you're as excited as I am, let's dive in. So you're going to create a lesson plan. The good thing and the really cool thing about this is you can create just one lesson plan. And so this is one lesson plan at a time. So let's take a look at it. We're going to hit the purple button, create and adapt a lesson. So we're going to create a lesson. We're not going to adapt, but if you're adapting, remember we talked about when we are adapting, we're using the curriculums that we already have. So you're using that verbiage that's in whatever curriculum that you're using. You're just going ahead and pop that right into that section. So whatever, if you're using whatever, you just go ahead and input the activity description, some keywords, and you can personalize it here. But we're going to create ours like from scratch. All right, so activity description, I'm just gonna pop in, like I said, what I want it to look like since we're talking about science. And then for the grade, I'm gonna put 3 to 4 preschool. And of course, we're gonna go to the PTKLF for California PTKLF right there. And then subject domains this week is history and social science, and then we're gonna go down to science. And we're auto adapted here, which is my thing. I love the auto adapted. The create localized curriculum. We're in California, but if you're anywhere else in the world, you can go ahead and change that here. And then we're going to hit generate and start your timers. Start your timers. All right, let's watch. I'm looking at my clock here, you guys. Looking at my clock. Let's see what we have so far. So if you're looking at the outline right now, and it's probably me, but it says generating up there. This always happens to me. I am usually up late night, putting words in, putting stuff in just to see what it'll look like. I really love the pictures that it creates to go in sequence with the lesson plan. So you'll see sometimes when I log on all of these different lesson plans, it's just me. I'm excited. So take a look at that. Almost complete. Almost complete. At home connections. We're waiting for that at home section. Let's go back up to the top. Oh, look at the picture. Wow. Okay, it doesn't want me to stay up there. It keeps popping me back down. No worries, no worries. So let's think about the time. So we started generating this at 11:26. It's now 11:27. And look at that. Look at that, you guys. Look at the top. Look at the lesson name that it chose. Growing together. Let's grow together. We've been together 3 weeks. We might as well keep going. And look at this picture. Beautiful and bold. Preparation time, 15 minutes. Activity duration, 20 minutes. Remember, you can modify your activity time because we have our littles. Our littles are like not as focused as we want them to be sometimes. And sometimes you just don't have the capacity, and it's okay. It's okay. It's developmentally appropriate. You can modify that time, 5, 10, 15. And if you don't want to modify the time, you can modify the implementation steps. So let's take a look at our objectives. Let me make it a little bit bigger for you. So children will explore the basic needs and growth of plants while recognizing community roles related to gardening. Through hands-on planting activities and discussions, they will practice observations and communication skills, gaining awareness of cultural practices to plant care and the importance of nurturing living things. Yes, plants have a culture. Yes, look at that. Materials. I am going to tell you the truth. Sometimes I forget materials, and the worst thing we could ever do is to set ourselves up at an interest area table or an activity table and then have to get up and walk away and go get more material. So it's right here for you. All of the materials you'll need for implementation of in this lesson plan. You can also upload other things, or you can modify this. If it doesn't work for your students, you can modify it. Implementation steps. Look at that, all the way through. It tells you exactly how to implement it. And again, you can modify it. You can modify it. It's telling you to invite the students over, introduce the concepts, transition to the planting activity, demonstrate how to fill a pot. As the children plant their seeds, ask open-ended questions. After planting, gather the children back in circle time. Conclude the lesson by summarizing. So I summarized all of that up. Teaching tips. This is my section, teaching tips. So taking a look at the PTKLF over to your left of your screen and the teaching tips over to the right of your screen. I have not seen anything like this with AI technology. So looking at awareness of social roles, if you look at the teaching tips, it says, while showing pictures of community gardens, discuss how gardeners help plants grow and connect this to how different people help in the community. Ask, what do you think gardeners do to help plants grow? To encourage children to think about the roles of community members. Teaching tips. Ah, amazing. You can also modify your teaching, your PTKLF standards. You can modify them. If it's not the particular standard that you want at that time for this lesson plan, you can modify it. Guide children in planting seeds as you introduce the concept of gardening. Highlight different cultural practices. So this is a great, great teaching tip. Later on, well, in a few minutes, we're going to go back over to my slides, and we're going to talk about, if you're a trainer or a coach, what this section means to you. This is outlining everything for the teacher, and that's awesome. But we're going to talk about how to really support your teachers in the classrooms as coaches and trainers, okay? So remember this teaching tips for standards. Keep that in your mind. It also aligns to the DRDP, as you see here. So it only shows one, but you can add additional DRDP measures depending on the needs of the students, or what you are planning on doing for your lesson plan, or where you plan on going for your lesson plan to help children developmentally. So the COG 11 is what they chose, of the knowledge of the natural world. Child carefully fills their pot with soil, occasionally pausing to touch and examine the soil texture, showing curiosity and engagement with the natural materials. Oh, it's just the wording of this. It's the wording of this. It's just super amazing. On universal design for learning. So if you're looking at the UDL, and a lot of us have been really studying and diving deep into the UDL, it really does an awesome job aligning to students with IEPs and IFSPs. So let's look at the activity description. It gives you an activity, an additional activity, and then it tells you how you're supporting your students. So adapt the planning activity by providing tactile tools like large, easy to handle scoops for soil and larger seeds. So it's just mapping it all out for you. Allow the children to work with a buddy and assist to support them in the planning process, focusing on the tactile experience of handling soil and seeds. Amazing. So here's the way to support. It gives you the plan of support. So I know a lot of you guys, if you have students in your classrooms who have behavioral concerns, they come with a behavioral support or plan of support. So this is a great way for those students who may be having challenges. Offer clear, simple instructions and concrete language and visual cues. Break the process into smaller steps, such as scooping soil, placing the seed, and watering. Using visual aids or gestures to reinforce instructions. So those PET cards, if you have students who are on the spectrum, if you have those PET cards, it'll show the little pictures and it'll give them step by step. That's a great way to really help your students. For our English language learners, there's an activity section here for you and a way to support their growth and development. So modify the planting activity by providing visual aids with labeled images of planting materials and steps in both English and the child's language. I really like how it didn't say in both English and la, English and la, English and blah. It tells you whatever the child's language is. There's been times where I worked in the classroom and I had a child that spoke English, and I think he spoke Spanish, and I don't quote me, but I think it was Swahili. And I was just like, what? How am I going to do that? But I rocked it. I rocked it. Had I had something like this, I would have rocked it even more. Culturally and linguistically responsive practices. This is, again, you guys know, this is my section. I love culture. I love diversity. Take your time, read through this, create your lesson plans if you have access to it, but this is phenomenal. Integrate cultural elements, use multilingual labels and signs, use culturally diverse visual aids. This is amazing, amazing. And family connections. The stronger your family connections, the stronger the opportunity for the students to grow and develop, and for you as a teacher, coach, or trainer to understand your students and your students to understand you. So it's not just about your students' cultures, it's also about you and the parent and the community and the family, etc. It's about everybody. It's a 360 connection. This is an amazing section, family resources. So you'll have parents say, I don't know what that is. I don't know how to do that. This outlines it for them. You'll have parents ask you, what are you working on this week? And you tell them, and they're like, okay, well, what's that? And so this is the great way to show them, especially because you have two things here: differentiating instruction for parents and families, books and videos. So sometimes parents are not education technology word savvy. They're not. And so they want to know, what does that mean? And so this is a great way to bring them into your classroom because they have a busy schedule, but to let them know what the children are learning. So on the weekends, they can continue that moment of curiosity and education. And they can show the children the books. They can watch a family video together, have a little popcorn, have a little fun. So this is the all new AI powered lesson planner. I know you guys just love it. I know you guys love it. We're going to head back over to my slides so we can have a conversation, okay? So what you just saw was the smart teaching tips, the embedded professional learning, customization and flexibility, coach and teacher collaboration. Learning Genie's AI-powered lesson planner is a game changer. It's a game changer. I'm telling you, it's a game changer. So what's next? Remember, I told you that we want to know how educators are extending this and if they're really able to master and generalize. So you've seen and maybe even used the AI lesson planners to create lesson plans that align with the PTKLF, DRDP, etc. Keep in mind that AI creates the plan and educators bring it to life. How are we helping educators understand the purpose behind the lesson and extend its impact in the classrooms? So really think about that. Here's another thought. Now that educators have access to AI-powered lesson planning through Learning Genie, as coaches and trainers, how are we guiding them to take the next steps, moving beyond what's been created for them through the AI lesson planner to truly helping them understand the why behind each lesson plan, how it connects to the student's outcome, and how they can extend and adapt the lesson meaningfully in their classrooms. So I like to use like I guess I would say a step process. I like to align and plan and document, which is what you see here on the slides. I I particularly when I make lesson plans, I go into detail and then I omit and then I add and I take away and then I say to myself, how would this observation look? But this will give you a clear guideline of how to support your educators if you're coaches and teachers. So you're going to align, plan, and document the impact. And so what is that? Coaches and trainers can support educators by guiding them through a clear process, align goals, plan purposefully, and document the impact. So what this formula means is when you align the goals, you start by making sure your lesson goals match what students are supposed to be learning, like the PTKLF standards, IEP goals, DRDP alignment, or program outcomes. So choose learning objectives that align with whatever your topic is. So this would be like science and social science. Think about why you're teaching this concept and what skills or knowledge students should walk away with. So as a coach or a trainer, this is the conversation you're going to facilitate with your educators and your teachers, helping them plan purposefully. You're going to tell them to design activities, experiences, and materials that intentionally support those goals. This is about teaching with intention, not just going through the motions of a lesson plan, a lesson plan, a lesson plan. Choose classroom add-ons that coincides with your lesson plan and embeds the concepts and supports diverse learners. So when you make your lesson plan and you think about your classroom and you say, how am I going to support my students in the science area or in the block area or in the dramatic play area, in the art area during circle time? So really having that 360 connection with your lesson plan and adapting your classroom to make sure that you're not just sparking inquisition, but you're also aligning it to your lesson plan and those developmental goals and domains, PTKLF, DRDP, etc., CLR, IEPs, ELDs. So use the AI companion to find teaching tips that match your goals. So again, we saw that inside of the AI lesson planner, there are those teaching tips that we just saw. You can use that and you can extend. You can extend from there. Think ahead about how you support mastery and generalization. So not just sticking to those teaching tips, but taking them over and building from those. As a coach and as a trainer, that's going to be your job to teach educators and teachers, especially new educators and teachers coming in, how to do that, how to extend those teaching tips. So document your impact. Track and reflect on what's working. Are students actually learning what you set out to teach? Use data, observation notes, and student work samples to assess the progress. So use Learning Genie to log your observations to upload. We know that the observation process in Learning Genie is phenomenal. Use it. Reflect as a team. Come together. If you're a coach and a trainer, get everybody together and talk about what was positive about this lesson plan. What could you change? What adaptations did you have to make? Adjust and improve based on these conversations that you have. So as a coach or a trainer, when you're facilitating these conversations, take some notes and say, okay, last time you did this. So what do you think? What do you think we should do this time when you write this lesson plan? Or what do you think we should do this time because you did this in the art area and it didn't turn out too good, you know? So use the teaching tips as a guide to help you in your classrooms. So when coaching and training your educators, you could also use prompts to encourage deeper thought and alignment to the lesson objectives. You can use prompts like, how does the experience reflect the student's world or culture? What inquiry or discovery opportunities are embedded? How will we document learning using Learning Genies? Give me an example of how we implement this, or how would you use this activity if we take it outside? So really helping your educators, again, generalize that content, generalize that lesson plan into different environments. And guess where I got all of those open-end questions from? Learning Genie. From Learning Genie. All right, we're going to take a quick poll. For the sake of time, we'll give you about 1 or 2 minutes. Go ahead and answer that one question for me. Wow. So we have digital learning platforms, 37%. Interactive videos or virtual field trips. Ooh, all right, you guys, 29%. AI tools for planning and documentation, 29%. I use technology, but not specifically for science or social studies, 16%. And I haven't integrated tech or AI in this area yet. All right, that's okay. That's okay. That's all right. Thank you, Daniel. All right, let's move on to our closing thought. So here is my closing thought. Every moment we spend planning with intention is a moment we give back to our learners with purpose. When innovation meets equity, we don't just teach, we transform. Wow, that's a powerful one. So next steps and call to action, schedule a one-to-one demo or PD session. Connect with Learning Genies consults to explore subscription options, and subscribe. So if you're interested in piloting the AI unit planner, for those who said that they haven't started AI, this is your opportunity. Please fill out the form. You can use the link or scan the QR code, or of course, as we always do, we'll send that out to you and you guys can schedule some time to play around with that AI unit planner. And don't forget, week 4, let's take a look at the new feature, and we're going to align that with the health, movement, and creativity in learning. So we're going to look at the new AI feature and align it with PTKLF, DRDP, and health, movement, and creativity in learning. That's going to be exciting. You guys, wear your tennis shoes. We're going to get up and jog or something. I don't know. I'm joking. I'm joking, you guys. So that's next Thursday, April 17th at 11 a.m. Get ready to explore physical development, wellness, and imagination and drive deeper engagement and how Learning Genie can support you through all of it. We can't wait to keep growing with you next week. Again, after next week, we'll have one more week to explore and for you to feel all of my energy. And I thank you all for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.